betting site in New York State. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today. And the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany. Make it to the Clubhouse Racebook.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Handicappers Report alongside Seth Merrow. I am Anthony Mormino. Belmont Stakes Day, but just in case I pick a horse that scratches, we are taping this Friday morning, a little bit after 10 o'clock. Weather.
There are some restrictions on the back stretch, the big day. So
looks like weather could be a thing. And that's why it's the greatest sport in the world played outdoors. So, moving groove. Probably the best day of racing other than the Saturday at the Breeders' Cup. And you want to just get to it?
Yeah, I will note you made the great point yesterday. I like that it's now the second year of this meet. Last year was 4 days. This year it's 5 days. And very European. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah. But if you're not familiar in Europe, they kind of bounce around and have these little meets, and Royal Ascot being one of them that's right around the corner. But I said maybe they have to think about Royal Belmont, Royal Saratoga. But it looks like potentially one more go around up here before they get back down to the brand new Belmont. But it's been fun the past couple of years.
We have things with Anthony's transition from high school to college, but I think Royal Ascot is almost written in pen for 26.
Nice.
I think it's the bride and I think are going to make a very focused idea to get to Royal Ascot. Probably not the whole meet, maybe the first 2 days. Usually it's kind of a funny meet where the first day is like
first day kicks off with a grade one.
Yeah, it's
group one.
Yeah. I mean, it's outstanding, but I'll tell you one thing. I'm not so sure the best day in the history of Royal Ascot is as good as today's racing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is as good as it gets. And in the opener, 6.5 furlongs for allowance runners.
1, 6, 2, and 4. I'll put Savas Melania on top. Just comes in off a nice effort last time. It's a Linda Rice trainee. I think overall numbers and the consistent numbers give this one a little bit of an edge in here. 6-5 on the morning line, and will be a short price. But if you want to play around, Willow Bend to me is very playable, and comes in off a couple of second place finishes. On the scale, the claiming scale, a little bit lesser, but I think we're in a ballpark class-wise that's probably fairly similar. And given what we saw in the last couple of races, again, at a decent little price, I think Willow Bend is worth considering. And Roswell, to me, is going to be very interesting because clearly on the numbers, the two best races of the career were up here at Saratoga last year. So I'm wondering if this horse just really likes the home cooking up here at Saratoga and gets back this year. And if we get back to those numbers from last year, Roswell is clearly a player with this bunch, but I'm intrigued to see because there is such a thing as horse for a course, and if we get a seasonal debut, big performance from Roswell, I think we can definitely label this one as the Saratoga horse for a course. I have it 1, 6, 2, and 4,
and that's where I let it. I'm 2, 1, 4. Roswell not only good at Saratoga, was good off the career bench in the debut. That was at Gulfstream Park, but I'm happy to be along with Junior Alvarado and Bill Mott for a second scheduled break for the number 2 post position, Savas Melania, and then Proud Foot. But Roswell, get the card off to a good start for yours truly.
Race number 2 at Saratoga on Belmont Stakes Day. And again, 11:40 post to kick things off.
11:40. You're going to be out of the daily double.
11:40.
10:45.
11:40 was Friday. 10:45 for Saturday.
The daily double already being in your hip pocket by 11:40.
10:45. Second race goes off at 11:20. We're looking at maiden specials going 7.
Just a big guess here. 5, 4, 6 for me. Stars and Strides is my top pick. Making the career debut for Bill Mott and Pin Oak Stud. Mainstream, who's 6-5 on the board, has already lost in 2 big efforts, including a 93 buyer in the slop. If you're not a regular viewer of this, I compartmentalize slop and muddy efforts, and for third, Copious, the other Bill Mott runner from Curlin. 5, 4, 6. Quick note on the 8, Life and Times owner, Doreen Tabor.
Oh, I would assume
Yes.
wife, sister, something.
I don't know.
8, 4, 7, and 5. I have Life and Times on top. Justify a very good win early sire last year. 87 first-time starters, 9 wins, 12 seconds, 10 thirds. So they've all done very, very well. And this one has a couple of siblings out of the dam. Restless Rider that won 3 of the first 4, and 3 of them were stakes. Well, no, there's 2 stakes wins and a second in the spinaway for that one. 2 other siblings won in their third start. So I thought there was some win early here with that one for Todd Pletcher. We'll put the 8 on top. Second slot, we'll go with number 4, Mainstream. A couple of okay efforts, couple of improving efforts from Brad Cox. A solid kind of eye-popping number last time, I think will lead to this one being favored. Lone Racing sibling Tap to Mischief won in the only start on the turf. So, again, makes some sense, certainly as the favorite. Draft Riots in the third spot. Lone Racing sibling was third in the lone start. So we'll put that one in the mix as well in the second. 8, 4, 7, and 5.
On to the third race, and I think I raised some eyebrows when I've mentioned how infrequently this race is run, which is 9 furlongs on the inner turf course, which I always kind of like because they start at the top of the stretch. I think that gives you good time to get position.
For me, 7, 2, 3, and 4. I have it labeled at the top of the page a very competitive event, but I'll put redistricting on top. It's a competitive event, and I'm landing here. But I think this is the most likely winner stepping out of stakes company for Chad Brown and Klarovich. Now, if you're betting, I'm shopping around a little bit, certainly. Swift Sure from Michael Maker comes in off of a seasonal debut down at Fairgrounds back in March. That was pretty good. Horse has some positional early speed. I would expect that to be shown from the 1 post position. And if we get a better effort, that one, again, at a decent price, has to be considered. Crystal Quest going off for Mike Trombetta, and Live Oak comes in for the third start of the season off a couple of okay efforts. Seasonal debut was a nice win down at Tampa in a stake, then followed up Preakness weekend in a stake at Pimlico. And ran 5th, but I thought it was an okay effort. I think fits nicely in here in the third. 7, 2, 3, and 4.
Similarly for me, 7, 9, 4, redistricting. Short price in here, making the third start of the year. One of my favorite angles. Took a flyer for a second at last, coming out of the Graham Motion barn, making a United States debut. Blinkers off, gets Lasix. And for third, the 4 going out for Todd Pletcher, making the second start after a strong return to the races in late April at Keeneland. 7, 9, 4.
And the fourth race, top of the page, I have this listed as a tough race. Again, it's a handicapping puzzle in here. Optional claimers, non-winners of 2, 7 furlongs.
I concur, Seth, with your assessment. And when I find myself in that position, I look for the price horse. It's 692 Victory Way for Bill Mott. I like the races this season off of a 16-month layoff. Seth, I used to be a strong advocate that they never come back, but just the way the game has changed in so many fronts, they actually do come back nowadays to their former self. So Victory Way in a wide open race at 12-1 with Jose Lescano, the regular jock aboard. Number 9, General Partner, Chad Brown's horse. I think the bettors will see this as a focal point runner of the race, making the third start of the year. And then Echo again. Norm Cassie claimed this horse for $50,000 a couple races back. 692.
For me, 4, 5, 7, and 2. I'm going to use quick to cues on top. I rather tease. Coming off of 2 wins in the last 3 starts, they bookend a third place finish. But the last win was under Irad Ortiz, hopped on board, 6 on board today. That went a mile, cutting back to the 7, I think. Irad sticking on board. We'll have quick to accuse on top. Into Pleasure in the second spot. This one is a little bit of a puzzle to me because last time out was on a wet fast track down at Churchill and threw in a clunker. Now, was it the wet track? Hard to say, but career debut was on a muddy track, and that was also something of a clunker. So if we do get a wet track on Saturday, and given the record we've seen from this one on a wet track, I'm a little bit concerned. The other races are really good, though, so I couldn't leave it out. Eliminate in the third spot. This one, on the other hand, won on the sloppy track in the most recent start for Todd Pletcher and Kendrick Carmouche. Kendrick back on board Saturday afternoon. So fourth race, 4, 5, 7, and 2.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, more Belmont Stakes Day racing action from the spa.
For more than 4 generations, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued the 103-year tradition of delighting their local following and faithful summer crowd with the finest authentic Italian recipes. Classic Italian dishes made with the freshest ingredients, served in a home-like setting. Some things have changed in the last 103 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Belmont Stakes action. We're up to race 5. Remember, a 10:45 post. Optional claimers, 1X going 7/8.
9216 up with Egelos the Great on top. George Weaver trainee comes off a little bit of an early season break mid-February to mid-May. The February race was a good win. The comebacker was a decent little third. I think we benefit from that and potentially move forward because the prior numbers were a little bit better. If we get back to those, becomes dangerous. And I think it's 6-1 with Manny Franco on board. A player at potentially a little bit of a price. Second spot, Silver Slugger. Intriguing horse in that came into the Nehru down at Belmont at Aqueduct off 3 wins in optional claiming company at Tampa. And off of that was 12-1 in the Nehru. They were all nice performances, but again, they were optional claimers at Tampa. What are you going to do? Well, the horse just missed. So I think Silver Slugger is legit in here. I'm a little bit concerned that we're not showing any workouts since February. That to me is a little bit of a concern, but as they say, the horse in the neighborhood looked pretty good. And then Unlimited Potential in the third spot. Nice win last time with a solid number. Has some stakes experience under the belt, but in this optional claimer, you look down at, I think class-wise, the point being the optional claimer last time was a little bit less, but if you look down the page, has faced a little bit better. I think it's going to be, contentious with this group. In the fifth, I have it 9, 2, 1, and 6.
And I it's strikingly similar. I'm 9, 2, 6 in here. I think George Weaver's runner, hitting the ceiling with the 2X, New York bred, ran well first time in open company. Silver Slugger, the way the racetrack is played, boy, with this early speed could be heck to pay. And then Antonio of Venice making the first start since mid-March for Rudy Rodriguez. So 9, 2, 6 in the fifth.
Race number 6, stakes action in the Wonder Again Grade 2 event for 3-year-old fillies on the grass at 1.16 miles.
I took a real reach in here. 3-6-4 for me and Bessie Abbott for Mark Cassidy making the second start in the United States, third career start, debuted in Europe early last August, then had the return to the races at Keeneland April 12th. Plenty of time to come back of that good second place effort. It's a big jump up in here, but Mark Cassidy, the Hall of Famer, I think he sees something good. And at 20-1, I'm intrigued enough. Nitrogen, this is, one of those races for me, folks. The Mount Everest angle. This is the horse to beat, the one horse to beat. If it's not her day, it could be me. I think we know who Nitrogen is. So if I can maybe get a 90, maybe I'm good enough to win it. For third, Virgin Colada. I've bet on this horse before when we lost to PG Johnson, aboard when we broke the maiden. So 3, 6, 4 in the Wonder again.
6, 8, 1, and 5 for me. I've been tied to Nitrogen going back to last fall up at Woodbine. And she finally started to get it done when the price came down a little bit, unfortunately. But I think she's legitimate as the 3-year-old filly turf leader at this division, at this point in the division. Laurelin in the second spot, undefeated for Grand Motion and showing some real potential with improving numbers. I think, has to be considered. And Al Jafera in the third spot for Chad Brown. Came over to the United States in the latest and was a nice winner at Keeneland and figures in the mix again today. 6th race at Saratoga, the Wonder again. 6, 8, 1, and 5. And I will say, if races are moved off the turf this afternoon, if you go to the one sheet, I have dirt selections. In this race, where there's nothing that is an obvious standout on the dirt, I pretty much keep the picks the same. And in this particular race, I kept them the same, turf or dirt. I would imagine they will try as hard as they can to keep the stakes action on the grass.
And on that note, but you would think Nitrogen would scratch out, right? You wouldn't want to take any risk. Whether they burn down their heels or something, something happens sometimes in the mud that they don't fancy.
The fact is you don't really know.
Right. No, you don't know. It's how I feel every day. I don't really.
And I wish that they would have stats that are more inclined to this when races. But I understand why they don't. Racing form stats that say, should this one get moved to the dirt? Because I think some trainers are better at it. They're better at picking the spots. But I can see why they don't, because it's a stat that if everything plays out, it's not going to be relevant. So and why use up the room?
And there's times that we have felt that trainers have entered horses.
Oh, definitely.
Hoping it comes off, and they want the inside post position. In the old days, you used to get stuck outside, etc. On to the 7th race, expected post time. You always get the 7th race at 2:37. 4-year-olds up the True North, running 6.5.
4, 6, 5, and 1. Nakatomi on top. Won the Vanderbilt last year right up here at Saratoga. Has a nice record at Saratoga. Seen most recently over in Dubai in a near-miss effort. Working well down at Keeneland for Wesley Ward. 4-1, I think, is very generous on Nakatomi. Second spot, Mulligan. Won the Forgo up here last year in the lone start at Saratoga. In the most recent effort in the slop, was 5th in the Churchill Downs on Kentucky Derby weekend, but that was the seasonal debut. I can see benefiting from that. Does have a couple of triple-digit buyers on the resume, and one of those was in the Forgo last year. It was a lifetime best 105. So second start of the season, the return to Saratoga. Mulligan is dangerous, and Bookham Dano, I think we've all kind of appreciated what Bookham Dano has done, including the near miss over in Saudi Arabia last year behind Forever Young. I debated putting this one up a little higher. Does have a decent record here at Saratoga. Third start back this year off a couple of okay efforts. I'm going to be intrigued to see what Bookham Dano does, and I think as a player. But as I say, you just look at the overall record. It's been a lot of fun to watch for me. 4, 6, 5, and 1.
Now, the caveat for me with my selections of 3, 4, 5 is if some of the major players run equal to their top buyer speed figures, I have no chance with Surveillance, because Surveillance, once again, I'm not that impressed with the slop figure 2 races back, but the most recent effort in the Nehru, if I improve a little and 2 or 3 of these horses don't hit their buyer triple figures, I got a chance at a gigantic price, and that's where I'm headed. Nakatomi, to me, is the horse to beat in the race. I said I agree with you. I mean, I think this horse is primed and ready for a big effort off of the trip to Maidan. This is, 4-1, I think, is so sweet.
Yeah.
And then Bookham Dano, who is nails, 3, 4, 5 in a very contentious True North.
A select field, but a very interesting field in this year's edition of the Metropolitan handicap, the Met Mile, as it were, up here at Saratoga. It's that 1.5 turn mile, but again, with only 5 horses, I don't think anybody is necessarily compromised in this situation. Your thoughts? Race number 8, $1 million up for grabs in the Grade 1 Met.
I didn't do the research on this, but I have to tell you, anecdotally, I have 4 horses that are so good right now, and I couldn't think of the last time the Met was this deep with a short field. And when I got done with all of it, and I'm 415, just a touch. Who, the Derby ran last, one of those trivia questions, and got beaten at odds on the Iowa Derby. That wrapped up the 3-year-old season, July 6th. The 2 efforts so far this year in allowance races, Seth, might be 2 of the best back-to-back allowance races in a very long time. And this is a step. I do like the fact that Brad Cox said, you know what? I'm not only am I jumping in the deep end of the pool, I'm jumping in the deepest end of the pool against 2 grizzly bears. And he was so magnificent in the mile and an 8th Keeneland. Winning by 7, the 104, Seth, I don't think does justice to the optics. He was not running the last 16th of a mile. He's shortening up. He's going hunting for bear. I'm just a touch here. For second, Fierceness, who loves Saratoga, has truly. I was always skeptical again about the Florida Derby number. I was big against him in the Derby, but now he is maturing and racing into maybe that Florida Derby number. And then I have Raging Torrent, who I think is going to be the lost one of the big 4 in here. But 4-1-5 in a great renewal of the Metropolitan.
I'm 1, 2, and 5. I think Fierceness and White Barrio are really intriguing in here. And I could have gone either way, but I thought off of that last race, the seasonal debut for Fierceness, I would go in this direction. As you mentioned, very good up here, 3 for 3 at Saratoga, including that scintillating Travers last year with Torpedo Anna. I'll put Fierceness on top, but White Barrio is going to be very tough. We were down there Florida Derby weekend, watched him win the Go Sapper. I had Safi on Thursday with me on Racing Across America. We talked about that performance, and he said right after that we're headed to the Met Mile. And runs well in the Met Mile. They'll move on to the Whitney, but does have to get through the Met Mile first. But, boy, you look at what this horse has done throughout the career, including a couple of years ago in the Whitney, but a couple of years ago in this Met Mile. Now, it was down at Belmont, ran 3rd. Last year came this configuration and ran 5th. Again, there are pluses and minuses here, but comes in very good form. Raging Torrent in the 3rd spot. Yeah, this was a nice winner over in Dubai in the latest effort, and becomes very, very interesting in here if this one does, as you say, and I think it's possible, gets ignored a little bit. In the 8th, the Met Mile, 1, 2, and 5.
And I know we're going to run an American Classic, the oldest Triple Crown race. The Met Mile is the race of the year.
I mean, if you look
by distance,
yeah,
today, this is the race that I most look forward to, and I think it's the flesh and blood, the best gathering of horses.
If you look, traditionally at the winners of the Met Mile, has been phenomenal over the years. And again, since moving from the Memorial Day to Belmont, it's made the Belmont Stakes card just a blockbuster.
Absolutely. We'll be right back.
There's no better time to think DePaula and buy DePaula. Just visit, call, or click. Get no worry pricing and 000 savings on every new Chevy car, truck, and SUV. Delivering value since 1980. DePaulaChevrolet.com.
It only takes one upset to make history, and now you can be part of Saratoga's long tradition at the Dark Horse Mercantile. The Dark Horse Mercantile offers a carefully curated selection of clothing, gifts, and home decor, from one-of-a-kind vintage racing memorabilia to select brands like Barber and Under Armour, as well as exclusive Dark Horse branded merchandise. So celebrate the Dark Horse in all of us at the Dark Horse Mercantile, downtown Saratoga, where the smart bet is always the Dark Horse.
A day at the track isn't complete without a night at the Horseshoe. Great food, hot music, and cold drinks. So why go downtown when all the action's just across from the track? The Horseshoe Inn at the corner of Nelson and Gridley.
There's no better time to think DePaula and buy DePaula. Just visit, call, or click. Get no worry pricing and 000 savings on every new Chevy car, truck, and SUV. Delivering value since 1980. DePaulaChevrolet.com.
Haven't signed up for a Capital OTB account yet? Now's the time to take advantage of the sign-up bonus. Open up a new account with $200 or more, bet $400 by the end of the month, and receive a bonus $200 into your account. Plus, you can take advantage of everything an OTB account has to offer. Wagering from any device, live streaming, racing info, past performances, online promotions, and more. Sign up today and take advantage of the new account bonus. Details at capitalotb.com.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Race number 9 at 4:08. In my youth, that would often be about 6:08 when post time was 1:30.
We're also kicking off a pick 5 with race number 9.
Just if you're of a certain age, it just rings a certain way. That's all I can tell you. Like you said yesterday with a good point, there are 30-year-olds out there going, what are these two guys talking about? Not teenagers, 30-year-olds.
Hey, get off my lawn.
Yeah. 9th race, the grade 1 Jaipur.
2, 4, 7, and 10. Think big on top. Comes in off a couple of triple-digit buyer stakes wins, Keeneland and Churchill. So I think is set up to run well. Again, on Saturday afternoon, I'll tilt in that direction. My boy Prince, though, if you're looking for a little bit of a price, this is Mark Cassidy trainee that last year up at Woodbine won the plate trial and went on to run a close second behind Caitlin, her greatness in the King's Plate. Now his comeback is maybe a horse they're looking at as a turf sprinter because looked very, very good in the seasonal debut. Belmont at Aqueduct the beginning of May in a turf sprint state, which I say, it's a little bit of a specialty, I think. But this one came back and did it nicely in the 4-year-old debut, sprinting on the turf. So interesting to see what it does in the second start of the season with a similar turf sprint stake. But at 10-1 on the morning line, I think becomes an interesting alternative. Same with Bold Journey, 20-1 on the morning line. I think the Belmont trainee is a real player coming in off a second behind my boy Prince last time. I'm looking for those two both to be in the mix here at potentially nice prices, 2, 4, 7, and 10.
You know, they used to call NY traffic New York traffic, and I wonder how many announcers have taken chemistry because number 9 should be called Silver Bullet. They keep calling it AG Bullet. I'm like, it's Silver Bullet, and there's a reason that Silver Bullet means something. But I love this race. You can knock it up against the wall all the time. I said stop it, make it easier than that. I'm 5-2-3. Yes, the race goes through the 2. Think big off the back-to-back triple-digit buy. But Arzak was huge last year, losing to Cogburn, who at the time might have been the fastest horse in the world. So it ran second there. So Arzak's 8-1 on the morning line. Michael Trembetta uses Irad Ortiz again. I think I have a live wire at 8-1. Think big is my second pick. Ben Curtis getting it going with Michael Stidham, and then our shot for third. But I think Arzak at an $18 mutual is a major player in here.
Race number 10. We're looking at the Pine Ridge Grade 3 event. $300,000 up for grabs. It's that subdivision I like quite a bit. 3-year-olds on the turf.
2, 4, 10. AP Kid is my top pick, making the 3rd career start. Debuted going the 1-turn dirt mile at Gulfstream Park. Showed less than nothing, if that's possible. But then showing that, you know, in the old days, Seth, what do you think a horse beating 30 lengths going to the turf? You think it'd be made the favorite the next time out? But the Offspring of Honor AP was and scored a victory. That was in about the 2nd day of spring. So AP Kid draws a good position here. Big jump into grade 3. For second, Flying Mohawk adds blinkers here throughout the Derby, going back to the back-to-back wins on the turf. And for third, for history buffs, 13 Colonies. And when you're outside of the Battle of Saratoga, if you believe in hunch plays, there you go. 2, 4, 10.
So no Zulu Kingdom for you.
No.
Oh, okay. I have that one at that.
Yeah, yeah.
179-3 comes in off a couple of victories for Chad Brown. Flavian Prat sticks on board. I thought the last two numbers indicated this one may have come back as an improved 3-year-old. A lifetime best buyer in the 3-year-old debut, but then move forward off of that. Now the third start back. I'll go there. Second spot, Nibago. I like this horse from Marquez. He has some early speed. Nice winner in a stake back in March down at Gulfstream. Followed that up with a couple of performances. That one of them was a dud in the Transylvania, but the last time showed some speed down at Churchill before fading behind Zulu Kingdom. Noble Confessor in the third spot for Todd Pletcher at a price lightly raced, showing some potential. Seasonal debut, was a lifetime best buyer. Noble Confessor is interesting to me for sure. In the 10th, the Pine Ridge, 179-3.
Now, what intrigues me about Zulu Kingdom, now, first off, on the plus side for him is the turf course was rated as good in the American turf. It was, to me, a career best. And it might get a turf course with some giving it again. That's on the positive side. But on the negative side, if he regresses back to his former numbers, doesn't that just make him a player in this race?
Yeah, but I don't see that. I mean, those were 2-year-old numbers. I think the 3-year-old numbers seem to. I would.
I'm skeptical of the 92.
I would trust we're more in that ballpark.
All right, and if that happens, maybe 6-5 will look like a gift.
As BIL would say, easy money. Yeah, I never think that's easy.
No, I would never say I don't count your chickens before they hatch, in my opinion. 11th race on the card, just probably the best subdivision that, really came around. Where in our whole life, the Triple Crown has been such a magnet, but I think trainers are starting to really, and grade 1 action and running for $500,000 makes it easier to kind of veer off the road and go for the sprint races. You have the Allen Jerkins up later on in the year up here at 7/8. It's a real nice division. And the old Reaver Ridge, Woody Stevens, is almost annually a fantastic race. I think here we are again.
I have it 7, 10, 2, and 4. Unfortunately, however, Colloquial was, again, we're taping this on Friday, so not an official scratch, but I believe that.
But I would say this is about as official as not official gets.
Yeah. So should that one run, I would do that, but it's pretty. Yeah. It's
George Rivers. Just so people know, David Grenning reported that George Weaver stated that he's lame, so there's no coming back. So that's.
So then I move into 10, 2, and 4. Chancellor McPatrick, this horse was phenomenal last year in the hopeful, the career debut at Saratoga, but then was phenomenal in the hopeful in a race that, he's not going to win that. And the Champagne, he's not going to win that. But then came down the stretch incredibly in both of those. 7 furlongs and a mile, then stretched out to 2 turns, Breeders' Cup Juvenile, Tampa Bay Derby, and the Bluegrass. Now cuts back, 2 for 2 over Saratoga, cuts back to a sprint. Let's look for a rebound for Chancellor McPatrick. Second spot, Matticat Road. Bob Baffert trainee comes east let's put it this way. Came east and ran in the Florida Derby and then the Pat Day Mile. Has been training down at Churchill and training very well. And now comes up to New York and cuts back to the 7 furlongs. I think that'll be beneficial for that one. And Patch Adams, also a little bit interesting, having been a horse that was kind of considered for the Triple Crown Trail. Then the 4th place finish in the Southwest and the Tampa Bay Derby. Got this one to get a little confidence builder last time in an optional claimer down at Churchill. And like the others I mentioned, cuts back from a little bit longer in those two-turn races at Oaklawn and Tampa, cut back to the 6.5 at Churchill. Won very nicely, so could be a little more sprint meant, and I think the 7 furlongs is right in the wheelhouse as well. 7, 10, 2, and 4.
I'm going to give my picks so they can cut it in nicely. Then I want to talk about this race off the beaten path. 11, 4, and 8. Gate to Wire, the 11 horse, my top pick, 12 to 1 in the morning line, has had one career start sprinting on the dirt on a fast racetrack. That's the race I need to be repeated, plus a little. Won by daylight, got a huge buyer speed figure, kind of sticks out at the page. But when you parse out, well, that's the only time he got to run on a fast dirt track. So even if I'm suspicious of the big fig, I give him a little more leeway than when I'm usually suspicious because, well, that's your only chance. And, Offspring of Munnings, and Munnings to me is a underrated stallion. They take the blinkers off, which I like sometimes. And he did it in a way where he was able to winning the swell, settle, and then run big the last 3/8 of a mile. So I'm Gate to Wire in a very deep race. Patch Adams is my second pick. He gets back to the dirt on a fast racetrack for the first time since winning by a pole at Churchill Downs, breaking the maiden in for third. Gunmetal. Intriguing horse. Exits the swale. Took some time off from February to early April. Came back very nicely at Keeneland. So I'm 11, 4, and 8. Now they can splice that together and put it up there. I'm very intrigued on how the two Derby horses get bet and run. Because if you run in the Derby and your next reaction is to go to sprinting, and I think Citizen Bull was 14 to 1 basically, and in the Derby, that means people liked you, in my opinion. You're not a long shot. There's 20 horses in the field. And I don't know how you pronounce his name, but Neo Equus, I forget.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. Threw in the anchor, throughout the anchor at the 8th pole. But I'll be interested to see what people, because they're put it this way. They're both a lower price in the morning line than my horse. I would be interested in a head-to-head against those two horses. But I'm going to be intrigued to see. And I agree with you. Chancellor McPatrick, I think, is so live for multiple reasons. The cutback, the Saratoga, the blinkers off. This is a terrific race, which is supposed to be, and it's 11 deep. So good for the 3-year-olds.
And I'm just hoping, that in the big race we get the nice match down the lane, and I think this has the same potential of horses that in this subdivision of the 3-year-old sprinters, which still have some other races to go throughout the summer. I'm hoping we get a 2 or 3 up on top that they kind of have a good ding-dong battle down the stretch and maybe set up some rematches going forward over the summer months. Race number 12, Grade 1 Manhattan, 4-year-olds up, mile and 3/16 on the grass.
As they go under the line for the Manhattan, there'll be one race in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Well, no, that map can't. Yeah, one race will be after that. It'll be one race in 2 hours. You did television and film stuff. It can't be necessary.
I don't know why they do it. I mean, if you look back,
you usually have Jerry Bailey and Randy Moss go, what do they say? Like
pull up charts from the big race.
30 minutes.
And they're out by 5:30 or 6. They're done. But it's a new world.
I just wonder, there has to be there's no physical reason to do it. There's no walkover. There's 9 horses, but I'm wondering. That's why I'm wondering: is it from a production angle? They think because that's rough on fans. I mean,
yeah.
I can't imagine how many drinks some people can have in 2 hours before the get out race. But
now they also do the big the walk out of the jocks room, and they're trying to make it something, I guess. But I don't know. I'm with you.
When they walk via Schuylerville, they come out of the jocks room, walk over to Schuylerville, and come back.
Well, you got to give it a segment to that. So
I would like to be in the production where they discuss how we got here. We need an hour before and an hour after for you to do this. So it's your intro, right?
Oh, right. But I intro.
You did the Manhattan?
I did.
Okay. I love the race. I kind of teased on Friday morning that I was going to be aboard one of the West Point horses, and you could guess it. Here it is. 2, 5, and 9 for me. Integration. I like this horse very much. I think they draw a good post position. I heard part of the interview with our friend Talia Bell. I think they're in such a good position on multiple fronts. Brilliant jockey. Third race, not technically of the year, but the third race since January. It's going to a 16th of a mile more. Once again, we can't run a mile and a quarter on the turf here. They start at the top of the stretch. I think at $11 mutual, I'm absolutely live here with Integration. The 2-horse making the Saratoga debut. Deterministic is my second pick. Third start of the year. See if Miguel Clement keeps the winning ways going. Won the Fort Marcy, which used to be, I think, might be, still is, the first turf stakes of the year in New York. For many years, it was the stakes race at Aqueduct on Derby Day. And then they'd run the Bogey for the fillies on Sunday. And then Farbridge, third start of the year, won the Man of War in the second start. I think he's the horse to beat. And if I was actually thinking that the 3-1 was generous on Farbridge.
I'm not thrilled with the outside post position. I have him right underneath. And I wonder if the outside post position plays into the
price.
The price.
Well, David Aragon is the best. So,
but I'm right with you. 2, 9, 6, and 8. I put Integration on top. Last time Flavian Prat was on board was a nice win. The Red Smith back in November. Flavian gets back on board today. I will note in the last 3 starts, Integration has been behind Spirit of St. Louis 2 of those last 3 starts. I had Spirit of St. Louis in the 3rd spot today off of the win in the Turf Classic, but he is clearly dangerous. But Integration on top, Spirit of St. Louis in the 3rd spot. In between those 2 is Farbridge. Again, we were down at Gulfstream for the Florida Derby weekend. Pan American was a nice win. Miguel Clement in the winner's circle said right afterwards, Man of War next, and then we'll go on to the Manhattan. Well, he got through the Man of War very nicely, and now they move on to the Manhattan with a horse in very, very good form. So logical, but again, I was a little bit concerned about that outside post position. Now, at the 1 3/16 has a lot of time to get his position before we get to that first turn, but still a little bit of a concern. In the 12, 2, 9, 6, and 8.
We'll take our final break. When we come back, the Belmont Stakes.
For more than 4 generations, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued the 103-year tradition of delighting their local following and faithful summer crowd with the finest authentic Italian recipes. Classic Italian dishes made with the freshest ingredients, served in a home-like setting. Some things have changed in the last 103 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
And about 56 minutes after the Manhattan is made official, at approximately 7:04, they don't put it in the form anymore, but what about the 152nd, 150? Well, it's got to be more than the Derby, so 155, 156.
It's the oldest, though.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Belmont Stakes.
And that was brought up the other night. It was a trivia question at the event I did downtown. And then I said, the better trivia question is, what race is both the oldest and the youngest, because Belmont at Saratoga, only 2 years old.
2 years old.
So same race, oldest and the youngest.
Strong feeling there'll be 3. I will say this. I think without the Triple Crown on the line, I am very grateful it's a 1.25 mile race.
Yeah,
if the Triple Crown is on the line,
you get multiple
the 1.5 miles it needs to be to really differentiate. But without the Triple Crown on the line, I think they fall into best case scenario for everybody involved.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Yeah.
And this, I have to. I think I know who Seth likes, so that's kind of a surprise. But I just want to talk about. I think this is a unique race, in that I think if Journalism wins, he's very far ahead on the 3-year-old champion. I think if Sovereignty wins, he's not quite as far because the Fountain of Youth doesn't equal the Sanity Derby.
Yeah,
but he beat Journalism
the Kentucky
twice.
Derby and 2 legs of the Triple Crown.
And you beat Journalism twice. But this is, I got to tell you, because of the uniqueness of a 1.5 miles, I love the fact that this is a 1.25 miles, because I'm not so sure to me that the 1.5 miles races prove a lot to me. But this 1.25 miles race with Journalism, Sovereignty, Baeza, which, you know, I'll certainly get to. This is really a terrific race. And Seth, I don't think I would feel the same way if it was a 1.25 miles. 1.5 miles. But as a 1.25 miles, almost the idea of a rematch, Baeza and Sovereignty skipping, Journalism running in the complete Triple Crown. And we get hope, unfortunately, I think there might be some moisture in the racetrack. Rodriguez, who scratched out, who I know many people liked in the Derby. I have to tell you, this is about as good as a Belmont without the Triple Crown on the line as I could ever remember.
That's what I've been saying to people last couple of weeks. I said, short of a Triple Crown, this is the rematch between Sovereignty and Journalism is as good as you can get because they both look good in their respective. Kentucky Derby win by Sovereignty was impressive. The Journalism race was one of the best performances I've seen. So now they come in. I know, speaking over the last week or so, a lot of people are kind of rooting for Journalism just so we can kind of, give a little bit of a tip of the cap to, well, they ran in all 3. And so the 5 weeks isn't the big obstacle that people maybe point out. So a lot of people are in the camp of Journalism. But I'm just hoping.
What is going to be their opinion if the skippers?
Well, it depends, I suppose, on how well Journalism runs, potentially.
Well, the skippers would be like, see that, that effort. A little more. I won't say who it was, but you could figure it out. There was an owner who I can kid with, let's say. And I made a serious point. They had run well in the Whitney. And I was like, they wanted to run in the Woodward. I'm like, I wouldn't do that. You have to recover. And they ended up, it worked out, let's just say, down the road. And I'm like, and that was an older horse. So I'm just like.
I mean, a lot of times in sports, we don't, the event doesn't live up to the hype.
Oh,
I said
there is no chance that happens.
I'm hoping that this winds up like last year's Travers and the hype, which came up in fierceness and Torpedo Anna lived up to it. I'm hoping this one.
The caveat that I have is I'm not so sure we're gonna have a clear, fast racetrack.
Well,
and that to me is a big caveat.
The top 2 ran well. And
no. What I'm saying
Churchill.
is, what I'm talking about is years down the road, where, like, I don't consider them fair and equitable contests. I mean, it's just how it goes. How we get paid, everything. That's in a box. But down the road,
and I will say, I hadn't thought of this scenario, but Dave Grenick was in the other morning, and he said, well, Baeza upsets the apple cart, and then maybe we get a a rematch in the Travers of all three. That would be great. But then he said, with the handicap division being what it is out in Southern California, and two of those, Baeza and Journalism, being Southern California horses, would they stick around for the Pacific Classic rather than come back for the Travers?
Well, what happens if Rodriguez runs huge?
Yeah, same thing.
I mean, it's to me, I think it's fair to say, I mean, maybe you don't see this way. I think the race is 4 deep, and I don't know how many Belmont Stakes I've said that. And I don't, I mean, if it was a mile and a half, do you think we're all in here?
I would say no, but
I agree. I agree.
All right. You want me to jump in?
Well, yeah. We're
2, 7, 6, and 1 for me. And I said to people over the last few days who asked me, I said, I like Sovereignty. I legitimately like Sovereignty.
Yes.
But I'm a little bit married, I have to admit, because I was down there for the Florida Derby. The Fountain of Youth, I keep telling people, go back and watch that replay. That was, River Thames, middle of the stretch. You're like, this race is over. And then Sovereignty.
And just as a quick thing.
In a short stretch.
That's a short stretch.
Yeah.
I mean.
Which made it even more incredible. And then I thought the Florida Derby second set him up nicely for the Kentucky Derby. And so I was perfectly happy with that price I got. And so that all worked out. And I'm still kind of stuck with them. But again, legitimately, because now Belmont gets the 5 weeks he wanted. They come back, been training well. I like him. Journalism, he's had a couple of races now in the Triple Crown, ran well in the Derby, was phenomenal in the Preakness, but did get bounced around. But I will say, I am not one of these horse people that can look out on the track and say, oh, look at that, the workout or in the paddock and pick them out. I can appreciate how they look, but I trust other people. And Journalism has been out on the track up here. Everybody has been very impressed, and it seems like he's coming in holding his form. Baeza is certainly very interesting. That was a very nice run in the Kentucky Derby, and I know a lot of people this week are landing on Baeza. I think part of that is he's going to offer the most value of these three. If they're looking for maybe an upsetter, Hill Road. I mean, Chad Brown has been interesting, kind of picking his spots in Triple Crown races. So Hill Road coming out of the win in the Peter Pan. It was only a couple of years back. Arcangelo came out of the Peter Pan and won the Belmont Stakes. But for me, it's going to be 2, 7, 6, and 1.
And for Bobby Flay and Crudo, anyone ever come out of the Sir Barton and win the Belmont? Sarava.
Oh, what? Oh, at $100.
I
was going to say, was it the longest price on the board?
Yes.
It was long, sir.
Beat Medaglia d'Oro when War Emblem left his Triple Crown in the starting gate. But Sarava, I think, won the Sir Barton and came up and won. This is really a microcosm of my handicapping. I expect Sovereignty to run very well, and I loved him in the Derby, and I expected him, I've said it before, the comeback race, the regression, and then the move forward. He did it. He's in great hands. He's going to run big. Journalism is consistently very good. Baeza is going to be the best price, and I think he's with him. And I think Baeza might have had, the people that say, he might have run the best race in the Derby. And he took the time off. And I have him on top. And I don't know that I'm going to be going to get 4-1. Rodriguez scares me. I got to figure he's going to be on the front end. It might be some General Assembly moments. I don't know. It's 4 deep for me. I got to take a price. I actually think that Sovereignty is the horse to beat, not Journalism. That's for me. But Baeza, to me, is so close to those two, and he might be twice the price. It's a great race. But to me, it's 6-7, Baeza over Sovereignty, over Journalism. And it's just going to be it's going to be a fantastic renewal at the Belmont. And I think it's one of those rare life situations where you get forced into a good decision. And by that, I mean that's a 1.25 miles versus a 1.5 miles. I think it's going to be
all
great.
Right. 8:02. Keep in mind, if you're making your dinner reservations, we wrap it up.
I'll be paying the check by then.
8 o'clock. Race number 14. Optional claimers, non-winners of 1. Scheduled on the grass. 8.5 furlongs.
486. Chuck McGee sends out the 4 for the first start since the middle of February coming up here. Regular works for the debut. And, wanted to run on the turf for the first time. Going to throw that race completely out. But horse has been so good. 2 wins, 2 seconds. Smooth 3s for Jorge Abreu, who won a race on Wednesday and Thursday, comes off of an impressive state 1X, has a condition left, and is jumping into the open company, leaving the 2X New York State bred on the table. And then Jurisprudence for Chad Brown, 1 on debut, takes on winners, 4-8-6.
I'm 4-10, 8-3. I also have Deuteronomy on top for Shug. Frankie Dettori scheduled to ride. Hasn't been seen since Tampa, but clearly showed some ability. I think it's a nice fit in here at a decent morning line. Number 10 in the second spot, speaking of morning line, 15-1 for this one. Off a seasonal debut that admittedly wasn't much, but there are a couple of races underneath that I think tab this one as being interesting. If we can get to a better performance, this is a 5-year-old with only 6 starts, but if we get a better effort in here, a little bit of a layoff going back to March, but I think at a price, Todd Fletcher, Irod Ortiz, the 10 has to be considered, and then Smooth Breeze off a nice win last time, state bred allowance, first level allowance. Now, class-wise, how's the horse going to fit moving into this open company? Last race, number-wise and performance, seemed like one of those breakthrough light bulb kind of moments. I could see putting a couple together and this one fitting okay. 14th and final on Belmont Stakes Day, 4-10, 8-3.
Well, that wraps up the Handicappers Report on historic Belmont Stakes Day. Best of luck, everybody. We'll see you back here Sunday morning.
This has been the Handicappers Report, brought to you by CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier online wagering site in New York State. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today. And the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany. Make it to the Clubhouse Racebook.